Hello there, welcome back. Let's continue this mini series about my trial of implementing this consultancy presenter. As you can see, the UI changed very much, so I'm very proud that I did a big step forward in the implementation. Meanwhile, I'm recording the video. I also developing in the background, so that was the main purpose, also to show how the project is evolving time to time. Just a quick summary where we left off. So in the previous steps, I spoke about the brainstorming. That was the very first step. I did a vibe coding session, which you could see in the previous videos. That was the outcome of the UI of the application, a very basic. Then I went through the documenting and the PRD part, then the UX design development and architecture. So these are, you can see the spend time on these, which is roughly 37 hours, which is quite impressive. I was a bit surprised that I spent so many time on this on these phases. But anyways, before I go through the epics and stories, these are the next steps after architecturing. Just let me quickly show you what the application is capable for now. As you can see on the left side, there is this side panel. You can make it compact or fully hide it. Of course, you can pop it off if you want to change quickly the document. You can bring it back fully. It can respond to keystrokes, so you can also use the keyboard. Also, I have on the right side, here are the recording controls that I designed. You can also control them via keyboard, and as this is a consultancy view of the, it was very important for me to hide all the private privacy information from other customers. So at this step I had to stop for implementation because some parts, for example the settings part, which is here, wouldn't be visible, wouldn't be called during the recording session. So what it does, basically you have workspaces. I have two workspaces now. You can see where each workspace has a folder where the data are saved. You can change, there are four presets for the UI. You can remember from the UX design that already shown you that these are the four presets that we work. Two light modes, two darker modes, and there is a recording part. Okay, what is the frame rate, what is output folder, so you want to change it maybe for any of your customers. You can upload a customer logo. You know the whole purpose of this. Yeah, and of course you can customize yourself. The whole purpose of this application is to give a better credibility for yourself when you are presenting for a customer. That is a customized surface where the customer feels more for himself. That is, the presentation is about himself. Yes, some permissions. You can see screen recording, microphone, yes, speech recognition, that you can also create subtitles within this application. Shortcuts, here are a few of them, so just to remember, you cannot set it, but it's so to remember. Okay, back to the stage. I think this is pretty much what the application is capable right now. So I left off with the epics and stories. These are the written documentation which are after the architecture part and gives a high level overview but more technical details as we are preparing. This is the very prior step for the implementation stage before we reach that part. So you can see I have 10 epics for this. I'm using Cloud, so it could define the critical paths for this. What are the orders? So I had to do a very first epic for set up the basics. Then everything, the other epics were depending on that one. So you can see there were 55 stories, actually a bit more as I went through the implementation. And yeah, let's see how it looks like. So basically, yeah, 10 epics, as I told you, a bit more stories during the implementation. And here are the breakdowns. So that's good that I shown you before the UI, so you can place where we are right now. So these are where the app foundations, config presence, and theme system. Here's a quick summary what is inside, and also the stories. Basically, these are technical details, what we have to, what we want to achieve during these sessions. I use different technique for during the implementation. So at the very beginning, I made I told Claude implement Epic 1, Epic 2, but at a certain point I saw that it started drifting, and this is very important part that I realized that is it's either coming from that I didn't define it clearly, however, created a lot of documentation which I read through. That's why you see the architecture. So these parts, the UX design and architecture took so long for me. Anyways, so then I choose another technique to go step by step, because I found that even with a good context, is sometimes is drifting away. So I had to, just put back to the right track, and it worked quite well. Some really small parts, details, I spend more time than I wanted. Actually, I need to say that, but it's also it's a good recognition for myself that um, this is a tool. So even with a very good context, with a huge context, it can go off track. So you have to be there, test it. What I do, give a little part, implement it, and then I test it thoroughly, and I adjust. Okay, change this and that. I make a short discussion about the solutioning, what was good, what was wrong, and then not only requesting to change the code, but also document back in these story files what was different than I requested before. Actually, this settings UI part, it started, I needed really hold it in my hands, because the UX design actually designed only for there was a design only for the main presenting area, so this one, you remember, but I forgot to go through the small details, the settings, because this I had a wrong assumption that when I have a design system, in the next steps it will create, it will work from that, reuse the idea that we used before, but it wasn't the case. So I should have created more and more decision. But anyways, at the end it went very well. So for example, the settings part I had to redesign, because first it wasn't about the workspaces separated, it was more everything was in a global, but I really wanted to have several workspaces, so I had to arrange a bit. It wasn't a big code modification, but rather a rearrangement. So as you can see, it went quite well. Yes, there are some parts that, for example, I wanted to defer for a later sessions. You can see I want to have a custom theme editor, but for now, these 4 presets, I think it's good enough. Right now, I'm at this stage, so roughly a 70%. Yes, and now this part is coming when basically during the presentation you cannot switch the settings, otherwise you can uh, accidentally show the other customers details, which I don't want. But now this is just a test repository. Yesterday I spent quite much time about CPU and GPU optimization. That took a few hours for me to pump it down, so figure it out what is going wrong. But then I had a good idea, and basically we together we managed to solve it. Yes, I plan to put Obsidian, for better integration. I use Obsidian so I can choose from the repository I loaded with written documentations I can put into this tool presenting, accessible localization, distribution, and packaging. Basically, I want to have it available for anyone who are interested in such a tool. I want to show you some interesting part, because there is a inside part in Cloud where you can see how are you working with, interacting with Cloud. Few parts. This is how you use Cloud code. So basically, I'll just move it here. You can see the median is a bit over 2 minutes. So it means the response time, you can see roughly I'm between 2 and 5 minutes. If I recall my sessions with Claude, the chat sessions, basically this is due to that I was thinking about the solutioning, so giving a better next step, look up some documentations, creating some design wireframes or something like this. They are very short. Probably these were the commit messages or some tweaks. But roughly, it worth to think more thoroughly about the solutioning. Another interesting part, what can go wrong? Okay, for me, this was this is I think it's more about myself. So about my project managing skills. You can see I was dissatisfied in a very little part, lightly satisfied in more part, and satisfied happy, you can see. So I think when we are leading these AI agents, it's very important that we must be very cautious and commanding, so not to accept everything that is come out from these tools, because they have this encouraging model that they like giving positive encouragement, which I think it's at the first time it's good, but then it can easily has an impact on the outcome. So it can steer your thinking, and I think this is the part that we still have to keep in our hands very tight, that we have to be very rigorous and really leading these sessions. Okay, I'm jumping back to the status about, yes, implementation is I leave it here, you can read what I took some notes. it was 20, roughly 20 hours. So if you're comparing to 30 plus 8, 33 plus 8, 40 to 20 hours, it's roughly neither two-thirds of document writing. So it's roughly 60-70%. Of course, with the coding, I'm not done yet. So I expect to double it. So even with that, it will balance something 50-50 percent, which is, I think this is a good balance, that shifting left in the specifications, give proper context, spend time on the designing of the problem, and find a better solution, because the coding part can come from any cheaper, faster models. But remember, building up the specification is not just about writing document for the sake of writing. It's for the future. So a few months later, when I have to pick up where I left off this project, you have a very good context, and I can easily inject new features, new functions. I can create, I can adjust very well what how the product should behave, and also there is a documentation. If there is a bug, what went wrong. So this is also very important. Where is this problem come from? Where the bug came from? When was it defined? At least this is my perception about the bunch of documentation, because it's really a lot. But yeah, anyways, so this is a new way. I think it's very interesting. Some difficulties, for example, yes, reading through huge amount of proposals documentation, it's very tiring. And just going back to this part, here is the when did I work in with the tool. You can see in the evening and night hours I spend more time, which has, I think, also implication of the outcomes. So when I was tired or fed enough, I just sleep through essential problems that later on maybe introduce the bug or drifting away. So you need a fresh mind for that. Yes, what I think is very good, that I can work with the cloud like senior engineer that uses the best practices. I don't have to reinvent the hot water. Multi-domain knowledge, that my knowledge is very narrow, but I have the skill to dig deeper and find different solutions in the different domains like health or banking, finances, security, whatever. And yes, I think that everything is written in the documentation, then you can stop and continue next day. And also very important, that document back what was changing during the implementation sessions. So when you have a documentation, you can write the docs, or from the docs you can write the code. So basically these are the steps that you can give to you can do it yourself or giving it to a development team. Okay, my next steps, and I'm closing this video because it's getting quite long. So future improvements, maybe porting to Linux or Windows, publishing on App Store or somewhere else, some other stores. So yeah, I mentioned also the creating this multi-theme editor. A lot of things can come out from this, but this is the MVP for now. So I have a lot of idea about this, but this is a very good session where actually I started 2 weeks ago. And now I have this application up and running, and I'm very satisfied with the outcome. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the later videos. Bye for now.